Hey y'all, it's a tester. This slogan looks like we're going. Tester, we're gonna try this live thing. I have a. I'm gonna do a what I call the Q and O, which I borrowed from Nadia Bolsweber, one of my heroes. Q and O being question and opinion rather than question and answer. I'll just give my best opinion on some of these questions. So tonight's question comes from Dr. Shannon Halico asking, and I'll read it here. But usually the questions around these subtle energy mechanics, the Kundalini awakening, spiritual awakening process that people go through, and what it looks like, and how does the body express what maybe an internal experience. Well, there's an internal experience of awakening where we perceive the world in one way, and then there's this what is termed awakening, and then then there's this revolution in how we experience ourselves and everything else. So that's awakening from some previous perception. And so what I like to talk about, or in my training and my practice, is the how do we actually, when we're looking at somebody else, we may be working with somebody else, if you're a provider or a doctor or a therapist or an energy worker or a healer or a Reiki practitioner, on and on and on and on. How can you look at a body, see a body, and feel into the person that you're working with and help facilitate this awakening process? What are the mechanics of it? So that's kind of the groundwork of what we talk about. So I'm doing an experiment tonight. I'm going to do the Q and O here on YouTube to see if anybody else enjoys the discussion. Usually this Q and O is weekly or multiple times a week in a closed Facebook group for people who are just learning this work. But welcome to the discussion, anybody that would like to join. So I'm going to read Dr. Halico's question. Okay, so she says, I've been thinking a lot about the clients that I've been waking up on the table. I recall Craig, being me, saying that some people never feel anything during sessions, but they can have changes in their life that they do notice. Okay. If awakening is a journey, I was wondering if subtle energy mechanics helps all people that are a good fit for the work along that journey. Will they all have a conscious awakening if they continue? Or will some clients only have physical or emotional shifts without any shift in their conscious connection to the way they perceive reality? I was thinking this could be related to the kosha levels that we get into in their sessions. This is just the different energetic levels that are laid out in kind of yogic work, and how, as the energy is coming through you, if we talk about kundalini, big energy coming up and down through the spine, there we talk about 5 different koshas. As the energy is coming up the spine, it moves in the first kosha, what I'm calling kosha. I might be taking a little bit of creative license with my description of them, but the behavior is the most important thing, rather than adhering specifically to a narrative written in a book. For me, really, it comes down to how can we continue to nuance the narrative so we make sure that we're staying connected with the person and are seeing the results that they may be wanting for their life. Okay. Let's see, where did I leave off here? Coach levels. I'm so curious about the impact of this work. Okay, so Shannon, you've got a number of questions in here that I'll go back up towards the top, and I wanted to read through to see where we are here. Okay, so I'm going to go all the way back to the top. She recalls me saying that some people never feel anything during sessions, but they can have changes in their life that they notice. Yeah. So never feel anything in their life. So in a session, it can be really subtle work. Subtle work meaning If I'm looking at somebody and I adjust my posture, and that I may be looking at somebody and they're looking at the other way, or they're maybe laying down on a massage table or a treatment table, and you're watching and you're paying attention to where your focus is, where your posture, where your breath is, you may actually see their breath start to subtly shift to match yours. Now, those of you watching or those of you in the group may recognize that that's something that you've experienced when you're sitting with a child on your lap, or you're sitting with your significant other, or an intimate exchange with your significant other, that actually, that biologic entrainment, the co-regulation, the mirroring and rhythmic matching of the breath is something that the body, the biology in nature actually starts to reveal, is that it seeks out this rhythmic connection. We don't necessarily consciously recognize it, but the biology does. So this awakening is a biologic process. So as long as we keep ourselves close to the path, it's an imperative. It's going to happen. And what we're meaning here by this awakening is, just like we continue to learn and grow throughout our life, as long as we're staying true to reducing the resistance in our nervous system, resistance to novelty, resistance to new things, our body and nervous system will continue to grow. And the way it grows will be in predictable layers, up and down, specifically through the spinal cord, in its various behaviors. So the first kosha is the slow moving breath, like with a yawn. Like when you yawn, there's and you start to exhale in that yawn. That first kosha can be experienced in that really slow dropping down of like, this is really good. The second kosha is when you're going up in the yawn and you want to stretch. It's the taking of that energy that just pooled at the bottom of that first kosha, and it's lifting it up. Whoa, like a plant goes straight towards the sky. That's the second. And then the third is a particular movement pattern. The fourth is a different type of movement pattern that's even higher and more blissful. And then the fifth is kind of a high volume, pure soul energy that will run through and kind of launch you up above the clouds. Very different, each distinct layer. And that awakening process, the awakening event, is just a coming up for air and realizing, oh, this is different than I have ever seen before, this experience. The process is when you coordinate the first kosha, safety, second kosha, emotion, third kosha, thinking, so that you're actually aware of safety and emotion and moving in one direction in life, moving towards what you want. And then you start to add in the mental processes. This is where I want to go. This is how I'm going to get there. This is what the big vision is. When you actually stack each of those together, especially that first one, this is the one that I always really try to underline, because the first one, if we don't have the first foundation of safety, there's going to be fear and apprehension and anxiety, and each of those experiences, fear, apprehension, anxiety, and resistance, is going to shut down any kind of enduring exposure to the world, which is really what that awakening process moves us towards, is an increased exposure and awakened receiving exposure to the world. You certainly don't want to do that if there's a lot of trauma and fear in the system. So then what we really need to do is helping that first kosha get from the very bottom of the spinal cord, which is the bottom of the brain, the bottom of the central nervous system, all the way up through the entire spinal cord and all the way to the top, so that every single bit of experience that comes in through all the nerves, from the interoception, the interior experience, and the exterior experience, every bit of experience then can be received at a speed that allows us to stay safe. If it comes too fast, a lot of people want their awakening experience faster. They want it faster, faster, faster. But if you talk to anybody who's taken a healthy dose of DMT or mushrooms, everybody pretty much agrees it's one of the scariest dang things you can do, because it's so fast and it's so profound. it comes right at you. So there is something to be said about having access to that first kosha, which slows it down so that you can feel and you can breathe and you can ease into it, because you got some years left in your life. We don't have to get there by tomorrow. Okay. In this awakening journey, she says, I was wondering if subtle energy mechanics helps all people that are a good fit for the work along that journey. Quick answer is yes, I think so. To the degree that we take all of the spiritual and hierarchical meaning and context away from the awakening experience, can a nervous system still grow towards experiencing the world in a more integrated and coordinated way? Yeah, in just about every case, yes. So I've worked with people from little babies all the way to people in their last day with the cancer struggle and death struggle, and the nervous system, as long as it's still receiving and processing, is still working out how to feel and the subtle energy mechanics. How to answer that? So yes is the short answer. I was wondering if subtle energy mechanics helps all people along that journey. I mean, I've seen it work with horses, with dogs, sea turtles, people. Maybe I'll come back to that. Just, will they all have a conscious awakening if they continue? So that's a good question. Is a conscious awakening meaning, will they be conscious that the way they're perceiving the world today is different and easier, more joyous than it was yesterday? They might not everybody's going to say, oh, I've had an awakening, but many people will say, where did my anxiety go? How did my sleep change completely? When I first received this work over 15, 18 years ago, I wouldn't have said, oh, that was an awakening. And even though I'd had several of them in the past, just multiples of them in the past, and I come up for air, and then I went back to sleep and back into my human ways. But it was so raw that I only in retrospect did I say, oh yeah, that was an awakening of sorts. Where all I noticed was, oh my gosh, all this pain that I had and all this anxiety that I had and the stress around sleep that I had all went away just immediately. So what I was judging was all the struggles and pain that I had yesterday is gone today. I didn't then go, oh, that was an awakening, the side effect of which was my spinal cord and the startle reflex and the trauma that I was holding there is now eased, and now it's more relaxed, and there's spontaneous breathing, and that helped my nervous system reorganize all the tension patterns and the resistance. And so now I can breathe easier and I can sleep easier, and I'm less reactive, and I'm a nicer guy. I'm not much of an asshole as much. And, it took me a while to probably refine the story. So not everybody would align with the term conscious awakening, nor do they need to. Not everybody talks about, gives a hoot about spiritual or religious or anything else. It's all that's, awakening is just a kind of a new age story that tells a story about what happens naturally when nature is allowed to continue to grow its nervous system. And as that nervous system is seeing everything as objects over there and people over there, and I'm over here, as it continues to refine its ability to coordinate what's actually happening, at some point there may be a switch where you start to look and see that, wow, there's actually something more intelligent going on here and something alive going on here, and maybe a bit more that's actually planned and not accidental. So if somebody was just raised, so like from my family, I came from a very scientific family, and So I was raised with that narrative of the world as just this accidental bumping together of things that were like atoms and molecules and stuff. So that made me ripe for an awakening narrative. I was awakening out of the illusion that of what I believed the world to be. Whereas if I'd come from a very maybe religious or mystical family, it would have probably been no less profound. But yeah, I don't know. I probably would have maybe used different terms. Will they all have conscious awakening if they continue? Some will, and to the degree that you that they're that you to the degree that you are still dancing with their nervous system in how it coordinates itself in a progressive way. It's increasing the complexity of its ability to feel itself internally and externally and transmit what it's feeling and processing up and down through the spinal cord, which can then be tracked by the mathematics of this wave moving up and down through the spinal cord. As long as that's still continuing to improve, the person will notice that things are spontaneously getting easier in their life. More things are coming to them. They're having to work less hard. Manifestations just seem to be a natural part of life now, because they're starting to recognize and think in patterns and feel out into space as a way to manage, not only manage, but to produce this experience that they're wanting to see unfold, not only for themselves, but for their larger selves, which is maybe the community that they're actually connected to. Right. So that continues to be this evolution of how it is that they see what they are as not just a separate atom, but they are representing the entire molecule in which they are embedded, because that molecule feels and transmits so much more. And it's a different level of living, molecular living, than atomic living. Or will some clients only have physical emotional shifts without any shift in their conscious connection to the way they perceive reality? So physical and emotional shifts, those two will continue to increase into flow state. So moving towards flow state, meaning that there's a seamless energy and information flow from physical through emotional, up through mental, and up into spiritual and back. So there won't be much of a discernment between physical and emotional. There won't be separate from the mental and the spiritual. It will all start to coordinate together. Without any shift in their conscious connection to the way they perceive reality. So the more time they're able the more times they're able to pop up into flow state and then maintain their access to flow state, what we call emotional or physical or mental ends up just being more of a seamless flow for them. And they may not even, some may not even talk about it. So I was thinking this could be related to kosha levels. Yes. So we'll see how far I got. Okay. I may continue doing these. We'll see if we've got any suggestions, questions. Did any of this that it make sense to anybody other than who's in the training? I know that sometimes I can be clear as mud. Sometimes there's a crystal that pops out when I'm not looking. Okay, y'all. Have a good night.